Well, are you worried about losing a friend over politics? Or have you already lost a friend or friends? Have you left a social group because of a differing of opinions when it comes to politics? Well, hi, I'm Laura, and welcome to the channel. Yes, we're talking about politics today, but more importantly, we're talking about friendship. We're not concerned with how each other votes, how each other sees the world, what my philosophy is or what your philosophy is. But what we want to talk about is how emotional politics has become. And as a result, it's affected many people and how they handle their friendships. It's cost many people friendships. We often find ourselves walking around on eggshells because we don't agree with other people's politics, but yet their politics is out there for us to see. We may not necessarily discuss politics with everyone, but anyone who's on social media, anyone who's connected to another person on social media tends to quite naturally see what their beliefs are, what their philosophy is. People post memes, they share, they make comments, they make statements, they like, they love, they put exclamation points. We know a lot more than we really want to know about how other people feel. The other thing that's happened, and I think it's happened, yes, definitely the last 15 or 20 years since social media has become so important and we're in each other's business a lot more than we want to be, but we're kind of forced to be. And yes, you can scroll by, but you're still going to see it. But the other thing that happened to us is COVID. And I've always said our country has a COVID hangover. Things have become a lot more emotional. And if you're in my generation, and I'm kind of the end of the baby boomers, we were brought up where religion and money and politics just weren't discussed. We liked people because of what we had in common with them. And we steered clear of those topics that might prove to be just a little controversial, right? We can't all agree with each other on everything. But post-COVID in particular, it's become win at all costs. Maybe we had so much taken away from us. We lost power over ourselves, over our daily lives. Many people lost jobs. We lost loved ones. We lost friends. People died. It was scary. That maybe we feel a little unhinged or a little out of control more than we ever had before. And yes, the whole political climate has changed in the last decade, in the last 8 years in particular. We've become a lot louder. People in general have become a lot louder and prouder of their positions, and we allow a lot of negativity into our minds. But as we get older, our friend group is going to shrink anyway. Do we need to help it along by getting into conversations that may or may not cause friction and may or may not cost you a friendship that's important to you? So how do we navigate it? Well, the first thing I'll say is you have to get in good headspace. It's that whole idea of balancing negative and positive. If you're going to sit in front of the TV set or listen to the radio or listen to political podcasts and get a constant drumbeat that changes every 30 minutes, every 2 hours, every 24 hours as the news cycle shifts, you can make yourself absolutely crazy. And you can think that the whole world is on the verge of something horrendous. It's our job to balance that. And by balancing that, I don't necessarily mean that you have to listen to both sides on every single issue, but you have to balance the negative that's going into your mind, into your brain, with positive things. It may be putting on the AirPods and listening to some good music, dancing to the 80s or the 90s, getting out and taking a walk. I actually went up in the attic the other day and pulled out a bunch of cross-stitch Christmas ornaments that I had made over the last, 30 years, but had never finished them into ornaments. Those finishing touches, and I've got a whole box back here on the chair, and that's what I'm going to be doing for the next 2 weeks. I've also set myself up to have some lunches with some people that I really enjoy, people that yes, we share similar political views, but our conversation is always about travel, where we've been, where we want to go next. I have one friend who's been away for the last month, and I'm looking forward to just talking about where she went, what she did, and getting those things on my bucket list. Set yourself up for success. Go to the movies, dance around the house listening to some music, read an uplifting book. Get yourself in some positive headspace, because if you allow yourself to just listen to the negative, you're going to really struggle. It's going to take you a long time to get over whatever happens. And for many people, they're incredibly emotionally involved. And I think many people will actually feel, after the presidential election in the United States, there will be people who go through a period of mourning, who take it very personally, who can't get themselves back to their normal because they're just feeling so terrible. And what you tend to do when you are looking so inward is you just pile on, right? You listen to more stuff that makes you feel worse. And you forget that you've got a life out there, and you've got friends out there, and you've got things that you can do out there. You don't want to get out of your normal routine. Make sure you're keeping up with your social groups. Make sure that in your office that you are talking about positive things, about good things. Get yourself buried in a new project. Maybe it's an old hobby. Maybe it's something new that you want to pick up. If you find yourself in a situation where you're around people who want to talk about politics and you're a little worried that it could go either way, change the subject, or just be honest and say, you know what? I'm really trying to keep myself in positive headspace, so let's talk about travel. What's the last restaurant you went to? I'm looking for a couple of new places to try. Don't be afraid to tell people in your life that you care about, or people in the workplace that you have to work with, that you really just want to steer clear of the topic. In our social clubs, we like to think that because we're working toward a similar cause, maybe it's a volunteer work that you do, maybe it's a philanthropy you're involved with, we like to think that everyone has the same goals and sees things the same way that we do, because we're spending a lot of our time together working on those goals. But not everyone does. So get back to working toward those common goals and keeping everything else kind of off the radar. It's tough as we get older. We don't want to lose friends, especially if we don't need to. And I'm reminded when I'm watching the news how often they are interviewing the younger generation. And I'm really starting to feel very old. But it's a good reminder that the world goes on and that we are now the older members of society. And the younger kids have sometimes different goals, different aspirations, but it's now on their shoulders. And while we vote and participate, there's a whole new generation. There are several generations behind me that are coming up, that are taking their place, and they don't see things necessarily the same way that I see things. So I'm always reminded when we have a presidential election in the United States that I'm getting older. I voted for a lot of presidents. And now my kids have many, many elections ahead of them. Politics is just a portion of our personal lives. You may have made it a priority in your life. You may feel like you're getting forced to see more of it than you want to see of it. And some of you may just not have the time and the energy to listen to all of it. Whatever your situation, don't let it cost you relationships, because we just don't have as many relationships as we get older. We're already losing friends to death. We're losing family members. People are moving away. So why add to that by opening yourself up to possible disappointment? Sometimes I find the less I know, the better. I've lost a friendship over politics. Was it worth it? Absolutely not. We offer each other so much more. But the first thing you have to do is get yourself in good headspace. And yeah, if you need, if you're so into it that you need to take a couple of days off and just be by yourself, okay, so be it. But when that period of mourning or celebration is over for you, come back out into the world swinging, ready to make change, ready to be someone on the local level that makes your community better, that contributes to the future. We still have a lot to give. And while they may not be interviewing as many of us on the TV channel as they are the super young kids, we've given a lot. We still have a lot to give. So get yourself in good mind space. And then if you're in a situation where politics comes up and you just don't want to discuss it, be strong and say no. Change the subject. Move the conversation along to something else. Put those relationships, put those friendships first. Don't run the risk of going down the rabbit hole with someone and possibly never looking at them the same way again. We have to be more intentional. We have to plan hobbies for ourselves. We have to plan outings and getting out of our own headspace and doing something different and reminding ourselves what truly matters to us at the core. This time, especially a presidential election cycle in our country, is a very emotional time for many people, and it has cost many relationships that matter to them. Protect those relationships, protect yourself, and put your energy into balancing the positive and the negative. You can't have too much negative in your life, or it will really start to take you down a dark tunnel. Well, thanks for stopping by the channel. I hope you'll subscribe and drop a comment and let me know what you're trying to do to make sure that you don't get pigeonholed in a discussion about politics. How do you keep your relationships? Because not every relationship is with a person who sees things exactly like we do. On the one hand, that's what makes things pretty special. Thanks for stopping by the channel. Look forward to seeing you again in a couple of days. Take care. Bye-bye.